I'm a soybean farmer that voted for Trump, and I'm begging him to stop this trade war. Oh, look at you. You're so different. You're so strong. You're so brave. See, you're like a 10th generation soybean farmer, and apparently the president of like the American Soybean Farmers Association. You know that last time he was in office, soybean farmers lost $20 billion because of his tariffs. And our tax money had to bail you out. And you fucking voted for him again. And now you're like, oh, I'm begging him, please stop. This was in Project 2025. Hello? So fucking tired of you people. I saw a video of the cheese lady, the cheese slice lady. I saw a video of her like at a store pointing to cheese and saying, haha, see, some of us can laugh at ourselves. Fuck you. Right. Fucking glaring red flags. You ignored all of it. And now you're like, I'm a soybean farmer and I'm begging him, please stop doing exactly what you said you were gonna fucking do. Oh, I'm the cheese lady. I'm the cheese lady. See, I can laugh at myself. Obviously, I got tricked, but I can laugh at myself. There are people whose lives have truly, truly been impacted by his fucking whims. Cheese lady, we don't need you to laugh at yourself. We need you to fucking apologize. What, soybean farmer? We need you to say, I am such an asshole. It was crystal clear. He said, I'm going to do this to you. Now I'm like, fucking apologize to the whole country.
The Trump administration and went to Augusta on Wednesday to protest the funding cuts and unpredictability that his USDA is causing for these farms. 150 farmers and supporters protested outside the state capitol, driving tractors and livestock trailers and carrying signs to draw attention to how President Trump is hurting Maine farms. We've told you before about how Trump's USDA has broken signed contracts that it had with farmers across the country.
Now, fuck that. Fuck that. Joe Biden already bailed you guys out the first fucking time because Donald Trump screwed you over his first term in office. You guys seen what the fuck he did to you, and then you voted him back in again, and you think that we're supposed to have some sympathy points, or you going on CNN crying because he's fucking your shit up again? Really? Get the fuck out of here with that shit. The farmers in motherfucking Nebraska, Wisconsin, all of these states that are being affected, and they're trying to come on social media and the news stations crying now for sympathy points because they fucked themselves over by voting for this orange little bitch. Nah, it's too late for that shit now. Suck it the fuck up and struggle for the next 4 years.
Our new trade policy will also be great for the American farmer. I love the...
No, the hell he doesn't. During the last trade war, we saw an increase in farm bankruptcies. We lost 90% of our soybean sales the week the tariffs went on. And that was just playing FAFO in one country. Now the whole world's tariff. I dropped my phone. Soybeans are currently down 28 today. Corn was leaking lower, about 5 to 7 cents, and now it's looking at like it's 2 to 1 penny across the board. Crude's down to $61.99, which means no drill, baby, drill. Live cattle are down 4, feeder are down 6. Hogs are down 3, cotton's down almost 3, and the dollar can't decide if it wants to be weaker or stronger. Trump doesn't love the American farm. He doesn't understand how tariffs work.
In agriculture, there's about 85% of what happens on my farm that is completely out of my control.
Yeah.
So I have to do the very best I can at managing that 15% of inputs and costs and labor and marketing and signing the best contract and doing the best job that I can, and leave the other 85% up to the good Lord. And that's all we can do.
I don't know how many times I have to say it, the 78 million are more apt to grow than to dissipate. No matter what you do, those people will have a reason why they should vote for Donald Trump. And they will stand on that reason until their very last breath. That is a cult. There's no politician, I don't care if it's Jasmine Crockett, I don't care if it's Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or Barack Obama, none of them would I stand with until my last breath. I might follow Colin Powell into war. Oh, hell yeah, I'll do that as a military, as an ex-Marine. But those politicians, no.
You all have seen how many farmers came out online crying that they are losing their farms. But when you try to see deep, these farmers, they are not even remorseful. They don't even regret their vote. Because After I came across this video of these North Carolina farmers, they were explaining that they agree they lose 85% of their incomes because of tariffs, but nothing will shake them. They want to take it as a disease, and they are going to cope with the 15% remain because they think that their candidate is going to put everything in order. It's just a matter of time. Just to try to imagine these people. We thought that they see the problem, but the majority of them, they don't see the problem the way other people are seeing it. Let me know what you think today's episode. Let's talk about it. Then we'll come back with more commentaries.
There's about 85% of what happens on my farm that is completely out of my control.
Yeah.
So I have to do the very best I can at managing that 15% of inputs and cost and labor and marketing and signing the best contract and doing the best job that I can, and leave the other 85% up to the good Lord. And that's all we can do, whether it's weather or disease or a hailstorm or a pandemic or administration. And we just weather the storm.
I mean, in North Carolina, every year we prepare for a major hurricane.
Right.
You know, every 3 or 4 years something drastic's going to happen. So we're used and we're accustomed to that. Now it's just that much more challenging that we got to get through it and know how to and weather this economic cycle, this storm.
This is the thing I think that confounds people. You're talking about acts of God, acts of nature, hurricanes, rainstorms. This isn't that. This is a person in the White House making decisions. Does that frustrate you at all?
In the world now, we need certainty and we need consistency. And we, like Brandon said earlier, we've got to have trade. All of our markets are depressed right now, and the only way to really succumb to that is we've got to be sending stuff on boats going across the seas.
Yeah.
But I think that's also where part of not just the president comes into play, but I think that's where also a lot of the cabinets of staff and all the people that
Cabinet
he has,
secretaries.
and also all your other department agencies come into play and making sure we have those relationships.
Do you think the president has that?
I mean, I think he knows he's got people in place, and I'm hoping that that's what he can rely on.
I would rather face this trade war than a Category 4 or 5 storm coming off the coast of Wilmington straight towards it.
Y'all, I have some mixed feelings about these farmers that are getting screwed over by these tariffs. There's part of me that wants to laugh in their faces and say, congratulations, you got exactly what you voted for, bro. And then there's another side of me that understands that these people are just too simple and don't really understand what they did.
You don't want to hear the price I'm about to give you. I said, well, give it to me anyways. He said, each of those steaks now is going to be $1.74 a piece. I said, well,
Double the price.
We can't do that. And that's going to be impossible. So that's just to let you know a little bit of what we're going through out here on our farm and what farmers in general are going through. These tariffs, not the best thing for our country. I voted for Trump.
Now, if you didn't catch that at the end, he said, these tariffs aren't the best thing for our country, and I voted for Trump. These people don't really pay attention to the news. These are people that just listen to what Earl says down at the diner, and he's voted Republican his whole life because they're the party of God. They're trying to compare these tariffs to a natural disaster, but this isn't a natural disaster. This was a decision made by one man who is screwing them over, and they're just like, well, it's in the Lord's hands. What can we do? And this, again, is why religion is so dangerous. They're willing to accept financial ruin because the Lord's got this, so I'm not going to be worried about what Trump decides to do. And my friends over at the Cowboy Church told me that God put him in office for a reason. And that's just it. When you think that there's a supernatural force just watching over you at all times, nothing matters. Your family might starve. Well, if that's what God wants, who am I to argue with him?
So as a Nebraskan, the farmers predominantly voted for the current president. They also voted for Pete Ricketts and Deb Fisher, who aren't doing anything for them. And China announced that they're not going to buy corn and soybeans today, or I think they've done it over the last couple days. I think it was last week. Because of the trade war, their current president that they voted for decided to wage, a trade war with China. They're not going to buy your goods. And I know that a lot of you have said that you want aid. Well, as a taxpayer who lives in Nebraska who did vote for the right candidate, I don't think I want my tax dollars going to bail you out. I think you actually should sit in your decisions and feel the effects. You want us to. Every time we vote for a Democrat and you say they're horrible, So at this point in time, I'm going to tell you the same thing you say to me back. You wanted to vote for this. Now you get to deal with the consequences. And I don't think I should have to bail you out, because I work hard for my money too, and my dollars shouldn't bail out your bad decisions. So yeah, today I'm telling you, the farmers here in Nebraska, you need to deal with your own decisions. It's your consequences, not mine, and I don't want to pay for them.
American workers and American taxpayers have been taken advantage of for multi-generation, for decades. And it's time for somebody to stand up and put us first and put the country first and do what's best for the country, not what's best for the politicians.
Even if you as a farmer suffer.
That's right.
I mean, some people would hear that and be quite surprised that you're prepared to put your livelihood, your family's livelihood, on the line for the sake of politics.
Well, that's my duty as for being the head of my household. I've got to do what I got to do, what's going to be better for the future, better for the kids. It's not about today, it's about the long term. The long game is where the rewards are going to be.
But don't the price of tariffs and what happens in commodity markets like soybean, doesn't that affect you in the short term and affect your ability to provide for your family?
Look, tariffs will probably have a detrimental effect on soybean price in the near future. In the long term, it'll probably work out. I'm a farmer. I deal with bad weather. I deal with dry weather. I deal with torrential rains. We deal with hurricanes. What's a tariff going to do? You know, I got to raise a crop. If I was worried, I'd stay home and not raise a crop. If I was worried about it, I still got to get out there and raise my crop to get the price. If you don't get the yield, it doesn't make any difference. You know, I got to deal with all these other things. What's a tariff? I can't control that, so it is what it is.
Caleb Ragland is the president of the American Soybean Association, and he just wrote an op-ed for a right-wing publication, and he said in there, quote, "Like many of my fellow farmers, I voted for President Donald Trump in the past 3 elections. The president won me over with his commitment to business-friendly tax cuts, as well as his track record of reducing regulation and cutting government spending. I am one of 500,000 soybean farmers in America who feels the pain. As a businessman, President Trump must know how urgent this is." Does he? Is he? Anyway, he goes on to say, the current trade war with China is a gamble with American livelihoods, especially for farmers, those of us who grew up with soil and sweat, who can't imagine doing anything else. Mr. President, I hope you hear our plea. Please make a deal with China now. Yeah, so he doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. There is no deal to be had. As of now, the majority of Trump's base is sticking with him on these tariffs. But it's gonna catch up with them. They're gonna realize sooner or later there are no deals. He is not the deal maker. He screwed up. And no, China is not begging and pleading and knocking on our door.
All right, I'm a little bit fired up today, so bear with me. You and I are going to make change happen. We have a lunatic running the country, and it cannot be business as usual. I will not be sending my money through Act Blue any longer. I am so tired of getting these emails day in and day out from these high-profile names pleading for my $5, my $21, my $10. Emails proclaiming, we have till midnight to make our weekly goal, whatever the cause of the day is for the Act Blue money machine. The DCCC can kiss my D-triple backside. Also, I refuse to watch Morning Joe any longer on MSNBC. If Democrats want to know how to reach farmers, housewives, factory workers, tradesmen, and retirees, then just watch Morning Joe to see exactly what not to do. Social media like this right here is where people are engaging. We're no longer sitting on the sidelines watching wealthy cable network stars explain the problems to us. We know what it is. Bernie Sanders and AOC are the most visible ones that I see out there actively talking about the changes necessary for the common American working families like myself. Talking with each other and exchanging ideas, that's where the change will occur. Let me know your thoughts. What do you need to see happen today? So be sure to like, share, and comment. Engage. Peace.
There's this clip going around where MSNBC interviewed North Carolina farmers about Trump, trade wars, and their markets. And as a North Carolina farmer, I'd like to talk about what happened there. I am a small farmer who's worked in agriculture 27 years, including helping other farmers on profitability and growing their markets. I want agriculture to succeed. And the way we get there is by being clear-eyed about what our opportunities are and how our votes will impact what those financial opportunities are. Unfortunately, a lot of my colleagues have allowed themselves to get stuck in an echo chamber. And I say unfortunately because that echo chamber makes it real tough to make clear-headed decisions about your own finances, never mind farm policy for the whole country. And that MSNBC interview is a really good example, unfortunately. Any farm bailouts should come with really strict audits and fiscal responsibility controls to make sure that money gets used to get businesses back on track. It's important to understand the farmers who showed up to be interviewed that day are not struggling little poor folks. They're big old money around here. And it so happens that both of them were born into families that built up multi-generational fortunes and very large property holdings on tobacco, thanks to a New Deal program that guaranteed very high tobacco prices. That New Deal program stuck around until 2004. In farm years, that's yesterday. That could be why they don't seem that fazed by Trump destroying their markets with trade wars. To be frank, their family's wealth was not built by free enterprise. It was built by the American taxpayer. Those are just the facts. I certainly didn't make it that way. And then those two got born into that taxpayer-created wealth. So they've never had a chance to build the market skills to keep up in a free market anyway. To normal people who have to work for what we have, losing your export market to trade wars will feel like an emergency, because it is. But when your land, wealth, and position as rural spokesman is built on the taxpayer's back and inherited rather than earned, then asking for bailouts probably feels as American as apple pie. But I'm looking at farming's future, and I'm concerned that my colleagues do not realize the backlash that is brewing against agriculture right now because of behavior just like this. What do I mean by lacking business skills? Well, when that guy says 85% of success on my farm comes from God, no, it doesn't. God was very clear on what he thought on the matter. He said, you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. Now, from a business point of view, as the farmer, we're the ones who decide what to grow. And two of that guy's biggest crops are tobacco and soybeans. Those are both crops that only work because China buys a lot of them. If I keep growing crops that are only worth anything because we can sell them to China, and then I vote for a guy who promised to start trade wars with China, that's reaping what you sow. And when someone who says 85% of his success comes from God comes begging me for money, that's how you know God ain't listening. Now, when he complains about environmental protection and how dealing with that is expensive, yeah, it is. That's why the taxpayers tried to pay you for that too. Biden put out a lot of free money, grants to help farmers do that. Those climate and conservation grants are one of the first things Trump had Elon Musk get rid of.
Most farmers, the time they came out crying that they are losing their farms, we thought that is something very important and urgent that everyone should look after. But when you keep seeing this story each and every time, these farmers, the way they are explaining their situation, it's kind of funny to see how they are still believing that this time around, though they are passing this season of losing market, in a short period possible, new administration is going to fix everything. Just try to imagine these people, the way they are still holding MAGA tight. They think that what they voted for is just right. The majority of them don't even regret their vote. They are just sitting there in their rural area doing farming. Though majority of them are losing their market, but they are still take it as a something which is not difficult for them. They think that they are going to control the situation. It's just a matter of time. Just try to imagine. Sometimes I don't understand. You are losing billions of dollars because you are losing a market because of tariffs, but still, you are still there thinking, hoping that everything is going to be fine. Many people are still talking about these tariffs are going to harm each and every business owner in America in this coming 4 years. But these farmers, they think that someone, somewhere will come to solve their problems. Just try to... Sometimes I don't understand. I don't understand how people don't want to learn from their mistakes. I don't understand how this time around these people, they still have that mindset. I think people need to stop worry about these farmers, because when they are experiencing their situation, They look like they look comfortable. They look like nothing will shake them. Maybe it's because majority of them were billionaire. They have a lot of farms. They've been doing businesses decades from family to family. Maybe they think that these 4 years nothing will stop them to do so. But the way they've been coming online crying, I don't understand. I don't understand. You voted for this and yet you don't want to admit your mistake. You don't want to agree, yes, I made a mistake. There is these farmers, they went there on their farm. They asked him, what do you think about these tariffs? He said, me, I think these tariffs are going to affect those people who were already poor. Those are the ones which are going to be affected the most. Though I lose a market of making this honey, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll cope with the situation. It's okay. Nothing bad. It's not too bad. Just try to imagine. And the other people are there crying, all farmers are losing their farms. Guys, let me know what you think today's episode in the comment section. Thank you for watching this episode. See you in my next video. Bye.